So everyone, hope everyone's doing well. So yeah, this is now episode 4 of the Rugby Recap. We're giving you us our review this time, actually, of round 2 of the 2023 Rugby Championship. We have just witnessed some amazing games, really, with both, the All Blacks Box game as well as the Wallabies Pumas game. I mean, we'll first start off with the All Blacks Box game, as it was the first game. The All Blacks got the win. I mean, what do you think of the game overall? I mean, it was a pretty good win overall, I think, from an All Blacks perspective.
It was a very quick start to the match, wasn't it? The All Blacks came out firing like they had a fire lit underneath them. And to the Springboks' credit, I don't see how a side with so little possession in that first kind of 15 minutes could have countered what the All Blacks did, because they were just relentless in the way that they were going. I was very surprised with how attacking they decided to be throughout that one. But South Africa in the second half, they managed to come back quite nicely. It was that bomb squad, the few replacements of Malcolm Marx, R.G. Snyman, Peter Steph du Toit, Dwayne Vermeulen, that really started to shift momentum a little bit more in the Boks' favour. But in the end, the ABs getting themselves that last-minute try as well. I noticed, and I actually mentioned this, all of the tries were scored by Super Rugby Pacific South Island players. Crusaders and the Highlanders.
Is that... Oh, okay. Fair enough. Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, because Shannon Mazel got one. Will Jordan. You had who else? Who had was it Aaron? No, not Aaron Smith. He didn't get one. Who got the try scorers? Did Aaron Smith get? Oh yeah, Aaron Smith got one. Yeah, he did get one. Aaron Smith, Shannon Mazel, Will Jordan, and the final one was because they scored 4.
Some would say it was magic from the man.
Magic from the man.
I've lost it. Mo'unga magic, yeah.
Oh, Mo'unga, gosh. Mo'unga magic, fair enough. But it was pretty impressive. Look, from a Bok perspective, as I am a Bok fan, it was hard to watch really for those first 20 minutes because the thing is that you can't really say the Boks didn't play well. It's just that the All Blacks had most of the possession. It's just that we weren't able to do much in that sense. So, and again, whenever we had possession, we lost the ball 2 times high in the air and then just give back them a scrum. So it was really one of those games where in the opening 20 minutes, like you said, the All Blacks it's probably the most complete performance I've seen in a while of where they just dominated possession, got 2 tries out of it, and then from there were just able to kind of just maintain the rest of the game and obviously hold on. So, I mean, credit to them because they were really impressive, obviously, in that first half. Then, like you said, the Boks kind of got back into it, with the subs they made off the bench. I mean, that Justin Kobe try I thought was pretty cool, kind of leaping over a player. For a second, I thought it was actually being cancelled out, but I was like, wait, what's happening? But they're just like, oh, the referee has a crap. I was like, I don't care about the referee's crap. Justin Kobe just scored a try there. That's amazing. But no, I mean, look, overall, it was pretty impressive. I mean, I guess in terms of who was kind of the player that stood out for you in that game in particular? I mean, you can say one from each if you want, but who was the player that caught your eye?
Okay, first I'm going to do 2 from the All Blacks because 2 players had very good games, but very different games.
Okay.
First of all, Shannon Frizzell. I felt that he really stepped up in this game up against the Springboks. He was making running meters early. He was pumping those legs like they were pistons throughout that first 15 minutes and then ran straight over the top of Willie Leroux. For the backs side of things, I went with Will Jordan as the key player. I felt like he really came back into that All Blacks kit and showed that even if they are going to play him out on the right wing, he's got to be somewhere in that back line because of the impact that he can bring to an AB side. But yeah, combine those 2 very different games, but very complete performances. Yes, Will Jordan had a couple knock-ons, but that was when he was going for those high balls that if they had paid off, could have been absolutely clinical for the ABs. That Frizzell penalty, though, was a little bit silly, wasn't it? That one after Jasper Fezes dropped the ball.
It was a bit because there was even one before where again the ref. We'll talk more about the referee, I guess, after. But yeah, I do agree there were some decisions in the game that even I don't know, both sides kind of just gave easy penalties away really to the opposition. But yeah, I mean I'm similar to you in terms of the amount of matches really for that game. I did also actually say in my one that it was Will Jordan and Shannon Mazel who really stood out for the All Blacks. In that, I mean, if I had to pick out a player, I guess for the Boks, I mean, again, it's hard to when you're the losing side, but I guess if I had to pick out one player, I'd probably say Justin Kobe. I just thought he did a good game overall. Really, just made a difference whenever he had his hands on the ball, and got a try for his try for himself. So it's kind of good to see that. Kind of good, just see him back on his feet really, because we haven't really seen him in terms of the Springbok camp. Well, since I think last November. So it was good to see him kind of just kind of see how well he does. But I guess in terms of what we kind of just alluded to in terms of the whole game itself, in terms of the referee, because I guess a lot of people, I mean, I saw it within my comments. I suspect it was also in your comments, where a lot of people were talking about the referee's decisions in the game in terms of if that was the right call or not. I mean, I think the first one probably was. Am I wrong in saying? I think the first big call was at 50-50, and then there was like the two other calls after, because there's only really three calls I can really say that like where there was a decision to be made, because that 50-50 try was one. You had one where Will Jordan, like you said, got the high ball in the air, but a lot of the ball, from a ball perspective, they'll say the ball went forward, but the play carried on. But actually, and then obviously that led towards the All Blacks getting the ball. But then the other one, like you just referred to, was the Shanna Vazel one, where the penalty got reversed. And there was even one like where, for the All Blacks perspective, where I think like a free kick was given to the South Africans in the lineouts because the All Blacks weren't stepping in, even though in the previous lineup of I think literally the one before then, the South Africans did the exact opposite to that, or did the exact same thing. So it was a bit of like, I don't know, there's a bit of, I guess, indecisiveness, you could say, maybe from the referee in terms of some decisions. But I think the key one that I'll first ask you with is that 50-50. What did you think about that? Do you think it was the correct decision or not?
Well, it was a tricky one, because the first angle that I saw of that Beauden Barrett, Cheslin Colby contest, I thought that Cheslin Colby had scored it. I thought that he had got the ball down, because it was that angle from, I believe it was behind Beauden Barrett, the camera angle, and it made it look like it had gone off the knee, and then he had placed the ball with his right hand. Whereas when they turned it around to the other side, I noticed that it was off the knee and then hit his left hand to then go to the right hand to place it down. So it was always going to be one of those decisions that the referees, they could have seen it go either way, and either way of calling it, both sides weren't going to be happy. It was going to be one side felt like they had been, what's the word you can use? I was going to say shafted, but is that too aggressive word?
No, but that's correct. Again, it's a 50-50, so it's gonna feel like you're shafted, really, in the way you said, like where, like for me personally, I actually thought slightly different to you, like where when I first saw the replay, I actually thought Beauden Barrett actually grounded it, so I was like, oh, I don't think this is a try at all. But then when they showed the replay once again, I was like, oh wait, no, he's actually lost the ball. And I was like, oh, okay, something could actually happen here. And I was like, okay, they have to look closer. And it was the third replay where I saw that Cheslin Colby, I thought, put his hand down. But the problem, though, is that the ball was actually moving at the same time he put his hand down. So it's one of those, like, where does that count as downward pressure if the ball is moving at the same time? Or is it because – so it was a really tough call, that. So at the end of the day, I wasn't actually certain as a – look, I'd love to say, as a Bok fan, that should be a try 100%. But I at the moment, I'll be honest, I really wasn't unsure. I was just really unsure of what was the call to be. So I think at the end of the day, I think it's probably the right decision, just because if you don't know what's happened, and it's weird because you would normally favor an attacking team in that. See, this is the problem though. Oh, maybe I'm overthinking it, because normally you favor the attacking team, right, when it comes towards decisions like that. But I guess because it was so just. Yeah, it's just an unusual angle, everything that happened with it, then, I just thought of that. I actually just thought of that for the first time. Ooh.
I could go to bed. I feel like you're arguing with yourself.
Yeah, I'm arguing with myself here, but anyway. Well, I think that's kind of, I mean, other than that, was there any other key points you want to pick out from that game? Because I think, overall, I think the All Blacks played brilliant, but was there anything else you kind of noticed?
I actually had a bit of a chat about it on my live stream, and we were talking about the rucks and everything like that, how nowadays, if you pinpoint and you really zoom in on every ruck, you can pretty much see some sort of ill discipline from either side. Exactly. And I was talking about how I was chatting to Norm Maxwell, ex-All Black, playing back in that kind of early 2000s era. And back then, there was none of that. There was no not releasing the ball. If you held on to the ball in the breakdown, the opposition could stand on you. They could ruck you with their sprigs. They could do anything they wanted, and it was whoever ended up with the ball at the end of the ruck. They were in possession, whereas nowadays they have got a lot of rules in those breakdowns that can be taken in different ways. So it was kind of a curious look, wondering where we're going to be in 10 years' time in terms of the breakdown rules and everything along those lines.
Yeah. I think both teams actually did pretty well with the breakdown. I don't think any other. I don't think it was very one-sided in that sense, because I think it was one of those situations where you could say I think the All Blacks were pretty good. I'd say early on with the breakdown, but as soon as the substitutions came in from the Boks, they actually came straight back into it. So I'd actually say it was pretty even actually on that front. And I think in terms of the penalties, actually, I could be wrong with this, and I think it'll be the same with the other game. It was pretty even as well as the penalties conceded as well. So I guess in terms of the discipline, there wasn't really like a big issue, because I don't think there wasn't a yellow card in this game, right? There wasn't any yellow card. So
I don't believe so. Although the Springboks did start to rack up a few extra penalties near the end of the contest.
That's probably right.
It was about 12-8.
Okay, that makes more sense. That makes more sense. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that's kind of it, really, just in terms of the that first game with the Boks and All Blacks. Obviously, a big win for the All Blacks as they now kind of take that, I believe, 9 point. They take 9 points, if I'm not mistaken, because I actually did originally think it was 10, because I thought they got a bonus point from the game, because I thought if you get 4 tries and it was like 15, I was like, oh, it must be a bonus point, but somehow it's 4, which I don't understand how.
Super Rugby and Rugby Championship logic.
It's very different.
3 or more tries than your opposition, rather than 4 tries in total.
Yeah, there you go. So that's why I just got a bit mistaken from that front. But yeah, again, we'll then move on then towards the Wallabies Pumas game. I mean, it's in my opinion, I think this is probably the best game we've seen so far with the Rugby Championship, guys, because I was just blown away with with just how competitive it was, which it went back and forth. I mean, both teams really were in this, and at the end of the day, I mean, I thought when Argentina scored that one try with who was it, Mateus Caceres, I think it was, down towards that left wing, I thought the game was over then. But then what I didn't even recognize is that there's 3 other tries after that. So I'm like, jeez, this is like, it was entertaining as hell, really. But yeah, what did you think about it overall? What do you think about the game?
I was happy with it. I feel like after doing that live stream, we did quite a long build up on the Springboks versus All Blacks. So after talking about that game for so long, I wanted this other game to be able to perform and be able to live up to the hype. Because to be fair, a few people were saying they weren't really concerned about this game because like one of those two sides, they didn't think that they were going to be contenders. But Argentina in this game, and Australia to a certain extent, have shown that they have got moments in their game where they are going to be able to do very good things. It's just that question mark of, are they going to be able to do enough of those good things to counter the not so good things? Why does it look like I'm at a disco, Tim? My lighting just keeps on. It's a rave over here. It's the party of Rugby Championship, eh? There we go. We're in the suit. I'll take it off soon. Not wait. I was going to say not on camera, but then that sounds.
No, I don't want to see that, mate.
No, I won't do that to you.
You're going to blind me there, but no, I think overall, just from the game itself, I think like if I had to talk about the players who kind of stood out, in my opinion, I thought from an Argentinian standpoint, I thought Juan Martin Gonzalez did pretty well. I think overall, I mean, he got the final shot at the end of the day, but did pretty well actually with the breakdown as well. So I think that's kind of the reason why I put him in the conversation. But the other player I thought, well, there's actually 2 players, and they're both end with the name Caceres. One, Santiago Caceres and Mateus Caceres. I thought both of them were actually outstanding. And I do want to mention that Mateus Caceres, I thought, he was one of those players who, unless he got the ball, he wasn't able to kind of make as much of an impact. But as soon as he got his hands on the ball, he was just running for days. And I thought he was just very impressive overall. I mean, that try got at the end was just, just brilliant, as he kind of sized the player, then went around and just scored a try on the left-hand corner. But yeah, I mean, for you, who was kind of your man of match in this game?
For the Argentines, I feel like a big shout needs to go to our Sevens boy, Rodrigo Isgro, out on the right wing.
I can't believe that.
I think that he was making a huge amount of meters, and he was bumping off some defenders that normally don't get bumped off. He went through Karevi a couple of times. He was setting up the opportunity for Argentina, got extremely unlucky when he was inches from the line for that one.
Yeah, it was a try-7 tackle
near the end of the contest.
What was it? It was like that was from Tom Wright, right?
Tom Wright, yep.
Yeah.
And then also someone else got involved in it, didn't they, to just be able to turn him over.
I think it was
actually Samu Karevi, so he got one back on him in that case. But yeah, I think he played very well, and I think it made me kind of think about other sevens players for Argentina who might make the leap in the near future. Luciano Gonzalez, Marcos Maneta.
I would love to see him. See, the thing is that he's probably the player that I think will definitely play for the Pumas. But I think at the moment what will happen is that, because you'll know better than me, but the Olympics is next year, right? In Paris, right? So I think what will happen most likely is that he'll probably play in that one, but after that, then he'll probably maybe transition into the Pumas team in terms of 15s level, by the way, guys, just for you guys understanding. But I do think he'll come into that kind of setup after the Olympics. So I think that's what will happen with him, because he's just a star player overall. So I think they want to kind of utilize him at least for a bit longer up until the Olympics. But definitely agree that he's definitely someone who could definitely make it in. I mean, look, imagine him and like Mateus Caceres as the two wingers. I mean, Mateus Caceres is like only what, like 23, 25? I think he's like 25 years old, or somewhere around that age.
The benefit that Argentina have is they've got a lot of young players coming up through their rankings now, rather than just the old veterans like Krevi and all those blokes. They've got the new generation of talent coming up. And, I look at someone like, I mean, there's a couple options. Who does it for the seven side of things? I think that's actually one of the more experienced players, unfortunately.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I remember. That's
his face. I can't remember his name now. I can see him. Gaston Ravol. That's the one.
They don't have a. Do they have a young hooker? That's I can't remember. I can't think of the next hooker that will be, because that's the thing. I mean, as most of you know, Argentina. I mean, I even have it within. Well, you can't see it on here, but I always have the Argentina 2, because I always consider that as like the special kind of. Because some teams always have like a jersey that kind of represents the team itself, and you could say for the New Zealand it's probably like the number 7, with Richard McCall, maybe with I mean for the Wallabies I put the number 10 just because I think there's been a lot of 10s in the past who've kind of stood up for them. Again, that could have been a lot of numbers, to be fair. Puma for the Argentina, however, I actually did put the 2 because you've had 2 monsters who both have played in this game with Agustin Karevi and Julio Montoya. So it's going to be interesting to see to kind of bring him in that position, but do agree that Argentina is definitely on the rise in terms of like getting a lot of youth on their belt. So yeah, it'll be very fast to see what they can do. But I guess in that game there wasn't really too many decisions that kind of were bad. I mean, not bad, but like any decisions that were questionable, if that makes sense. There wasn't any questionable decisions, right? Am I right in saying that? There wasn't.
And I think if there were, they were kind of both sides were getting the same treatment in that regard. Although I will say, you've mentioned 3 of the sides. People know that there will also be a Springbok kit there. So what number did you go with for the Springboks?
I went with number 9. 9.
Okay. I'm sure that there was one person who was thinking who.
I feel like you have to. I feel like you have to, because like you have like Justin Van Nestes, and you have like then you have Dupree, then you have you have like what, Faf for Clark. I mean, you have like 3 world class. Like I always think like that's where I've always wanted to do a video in the future, like where I kind of like, I don't know, put like one position, then maybe nailed towards like a team, that makes sense. I don't know. You could put like, was Martin Johnson a 5 or a 4 for England? Because again, you can make the argument where Atoje and Martin Johnson have that same jersey, or I don't know. I can't remember, but it'd be a cool video maybe to do in the future. But yeah, no, I mean, overall, a pretty good game, like we said, guys. I mean, that try at the end with Markinar Quantawasi was just outstanding. I mean, he kind of got that all the way down towards the 20-meter line and just intercepted it. A crazy, kind of an acrobatic finish, you could say, at least. They got the Australian crowd going up, but Michael Checker gets the better of Eddie Jones once again. I mean, he did beat him back in November with when he was in charge of the England team then, but hey, he's done it once more, which is going to be interesting to see what Eddie Jones has to say in terms of that interview, because again, you have to remember, guys, we are recording this straight after the games happen, so we don't know what he said yet, but it's gonna be funny to watch it, I guess. But yeah, I guess kind of overall, that's kind of what we covered in terms of the 2 games already. We'll kind of just give you kind of what we think what may happen in terms of round 3, because again, we are going to have the likes of South Africa versus Argentina, and then we're also going to have Australia versus the All Blacks, and obviously that game will also be considered, by the way, guys, the first match of the Bledisloe Cup as well. So just keep that in mind, obviously, when thinking about this. But I mean, what do you think? Both. I mean, I know it's kind of early to say this, guys, because we'll cover more about this within our preview. But what do you think that all these teams can kind of take away going into round 3?
I think we saw a lot more of teams hanging on to position in this round of the Rugby Championship compared to round 1, because at the start of that Springboks game up against the ABs, that was probably the exception, with the fact that they weren't able to get that ball back. But once they did get the chance, I noticed it was actually the All Blacks doing more of the kicking, I would say, in their game up 100%. Against the Springboks. So possession's going to be so key in this final round of the Rugby Championship. The Bledisloe Cup underway for the Kiwis. They want to get off to a good start, seeing as the first game's away from home. Should still be a 3-match series. I'm just going to put it out there. But
it should be. It really should be.
And
but hold on one second. But how would that work in terms of this competition, though, if there was a 3-match series? Because if it's a condensed version of do you just still stick to the two?
You just play another game after. They've got a spare week somewhere. Just play another.
Fair. Yeah. So what would you have, like, one within a neutral ground, maybe? I don't know. Like, I'm just getting your opinion on this. Like, what would happen?
Japan would be a good market to maybe look at.
Hong Kong. Have one in the past,
maybe.
But so anything else in terms of, like, the lessons learned that teams can kind of bring into the round 3?
The box selection is going to be a very interesting one to follow, because I've heard a few rumors, but I don't know if that's just the general word on the street. I look like I'm dressed as a detective. I seem like I've just finished an interrogation. But the word on the street is that, I know that we talked about this whole B team and the A team and everything that.
I saw a lot of comments about this,
A lot of people are now saying that they should have played the team they played in Australia, or played against Australia, in this game up against New Zealand. Which is weird, because it was not long ago that they were the team getting told, no, you're the B side. You can't be up against those other guys.
Exactly.
Selection-wise, Marnie Leboc's got to be the starting 10, doesn't he? I feel like that's going to give him a massive boost in the loose forward trio.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like, they didn't go too bad, but I think Peter Steph-Toy or someone like that might need to be back in, just with that little bit of extra physicality that he brought to the Springboks for the later stages of the contest. And should Malcolm Marx be starting? That's still the big question. He came off the bench well. But would you start him? Got it, don't you?
I don't know. I actually don't know, because that's, in my opinion, that's the toughest call, because I've always said that Malcolm Marx, he is, in my opinion, still the best hooker in world rugby. So it's one of those, like, where, and by the way, I'm not trying to be biased at all or anything. I'm just saying that he backs it up every single time that he plays. So
I have a slight question, which is going to be controversial. This is the sleep-deprived Hamish talking now.
I like this.
Here we go. You ready? This doesn't really work for his Japanese career or anything along those lines. But for Malcolm Marx at international level, do you feel maybe your opinion of him is higher because you only ever see him fresh when he plays? Because when you think about it, he comes off the bench for the bomb squad. He has about 20 or 30 minutes where he's 100% fitter than the opposition. When he starts games, though, I still feel he's still world-class. So I don't fall into that category. But that was something else I saw. Someone was like, it's easy to be a good player when you don't get to start games. You come on the field when people are a little bit more tired, when they're sluggish, when you can make the most of that opportunity.
I would agree with that, because on the international stage, it is kind of seen more that Malcolm Marx has been more of an impact player. Well, he's played more minutes as an impact player. Let's just say that. He's played more minutes off the bench rather than on the starting lineup. I think it could be pretty close, but I think he has kind of got more minutes off the bench in his international career than starting. But I also do think that I know this is a while back, guys, but it's the reason why I kind of hold him to this kind of high, I guess, mark, is because back in the day when he was playing for the Lions, he started those games. He actually didn't come off the bench. He was starting those games. And if you look at the record in terms of, like, most tries for a hooker, he's actually up there, like, in the top, like, 3. because he was remarkable. Like, he was one of the best players in Super Rugby for like 2 years. I think it was like 2 years. I think it was like the 2 years where they faced the Crusaders back to back in the final. I think it was. I think that's kind of how it worked. But it was just I was blown away, because that's kind of where I found. I mean, that's kind of how I found out about Malcolm Marx. And I mean, since then he's kind of carried it on, of course. But you are right to say maybe there is maybe a what's it called? There's maybe a take in terms of saying he's only better because he's more fresh compared to other hookers. Because I guess if you're going to name other hookers, you're up there. We're not going to just talk about the Southern Hemisphere, by the way. We'll talk about in World Rugby. I guess you have to mention. I mean, I think it's only between 3 others. I'd probably say it's going to be what Julie Machon. I'd say from France. You probably have to include him in. I'd probably say, gosh, I want to get his name right. Ireland's.
Dan Sheehan or
Dan Sheehan. Dan Sheehan.
Yep.
Dan Sheehan is one. He has to be up there, I think. And I'd probably go with Cody Taylor. I think he's just he's, in my opinion, I've always rated Cody Taylor over Takalaho. But maybe that's where, again, I've seen more. Cody Taylor's always been, I guess, a better player, you could say, in terms of what he's done in Super Rugby compared to Takalaho. But again, it's obviously unfair to say because he's had a longer career. So maybe time can obviously change that. But again, when you're that dominant, when you're in that that dominant this side with the Crusaders, it's pretty hard to do. But yeah, you never know. You never know. But I would say those are the top 4 in terms of hookers in World Rugby. But I would still edge it towards Malcolm Marx. I think if I had to like do an order, I'd probably do like Malcolm Marx. I'd probably do Julian Machon. Then I'd probably do. I would do Dan Sheehan just. See, I would love to put Cody. I would probably put Cody Taylor ahead of him, but because there's been a battle recently with Takalaho, it's kind of flipped it. I think because of that. But yeah, it's a tough call. It's a tough call. But I think the final thing I just wanted to ask you, because I know we won't be able to kind of cover this within our preview because it would have been ready. It would have been ready, kind of. I guess announced already, but we did kind of state, and we'll mention more about this within our lineup predictions. But we have always stated that, the 2 games now being played for the All Blacks. Mackenzie started the first one, Mwanga started the second one, and we did say whoever starts this third one against the Wallabies is the likelier one out of the 2 to maybe start to get more games, you could say, within the World Cup. That's kind of what we were on the kind of a similar basis of. So from what you've seen from 2 games, because I actually do think this is a tough decision, guys. I actually don't think it's actually like there's one that's like miles ahead actually in this. It's a very close decision. So I want to first get your take, and I'll give mine afterwards. But who do you think deserves the 10 jersey for that Wallabies game in round 3?
Well,
it's tough.
There's a question that needs to be answered, and that is the other man going to be playing off the bench? Because we didn't get to see Mackenzie get a chance for 20 minutes or so at the end of this game. Whereas the week before, we got to see Mwanga come off the bench to replace Damian Mackenzie. For me, it's almost more tricky now that we've seen them in action because they had 2 very different performances.
Exactly.
Damian Mackenzie, he was up against an Argentine side that were allowing him that space to be able to pretty much just instruct where he wanted that ball to go on the back line. Kicking T, though, could be a massive game changer. And Richie Mwanga, he had a fantastic kicking effort today, other than, of course, his own try, which he wasn't able to convert. It's always the way.
Yeah, somehow he was like, I got the try anyway.
I think I would go with Richie Mwanga for that first game up against the Wallabies. Yeah. I feel like from what we saw in this game, maybe we didn't see as much of him in terms of the attacking from the All Blacks because a majority of the time they were actually having Bowden or Geordie as the kicking option in the pocket rather than Mwanga. But we did see a couple little Mwanga moments that did make him seem like he can be a real threat. Him and Will Jordan just seem to be on the same page when they're out there on the field, which is always handy when Will Jordan is playing the way that he is. But yeah, I'll go Mwanga, but I would have Mackenzie off the bench. I'd put Inor or anyone who they want to have there as number 23 because at the end of the day, you don't need wing and centre cover when you've got Ioane in the midfield because he kind of does a little bit of both. So I feel like they were overstocked with their back line a little bit in terms of certain positions because Clark had one run, I think, or something like that, and then that was it. They only gave him a couple minutes near the end. Whereas I think if they had McKenzie, maybe, I don't know where they would have put him. Maybe you give him a little bit of a crack at fullback, see if that Mo'unga-McKenzie combo could be doing something good. But yeah, I'd go Mo'unga. Final answer till I change it in like 2 days.
Exactly. May switch it around. But yeah, no, I'm actually on the same lines as you. Same wavelength. I actually did go Mo'unga. I do think he will be the starting 10. I just think it was a tough call, by the way, guys, because I do think, like you said, again, McKenzie had less minutes compared towards Mo'unga in this game. So that's a good you have to note that, of course. But I just think Mo'unga, it's weird because I can definitely say McKenzie made more of an impact in that game against Argentina. And Mo'unga, you can technically say, had less of an impact. But at the same time, in terms of what was displayed in terms of the attacking, I actually think it was more I don't know, it felt better run. I don't know, I felt just a lot more smoother, I thought, within this game against the Boks, because they're able to get the ball out so quickly. Like in that, like maybe I'm just thinking maybe of that first 20 minutes alone here, guys. But I just thought they were just remarkable in terms of getting the quick ball out to the wings. I thought it was much faster than what they did within that Argentina game. Yeah, it was good to see. But I do think that, like you said, with Jordy Barrett and Beauden Barrett, they really kind of set up in that department as being kind of like the second playmaker at times in terms of like kicking the ball high in the air and pressuring the up block defense. But Beauden Barrett, I thought another impressive game. He's telling his critics that he is the starting 15, and I think he is. I don't think anyone can not say he has not had a good rugby championship. Both games he has been outstanding. Even that try to Will Jordan, like. He like did a little dummy, looked to the other side, and just kicked it to Will Jordan. He's like, "Yep, found you right there, man. Found you, buddy." But yeah, no. Overall, just a good game of rugby from all 4 teams really. Within round 2, really excited to see obviously what comes into round 3 with obviously, like we said, the Boks Argentina game as well as the Wallabies versus All Blacks. Again, we're not going to do our predictions now because we have a long way to go. Obviously, we won't be actually doing a podcast, by the way, guys. Next week, unfortunately, because we do have a bit of a break for the Rugby Championship. But we will obviously be giving you guys a podcast the week after, both a live one and a pre-recorded one as normal, in preparation for round 3. But yeah, what a round! What a round of rugby! I mean, anything else you want to say before we kind of head off here?
I hope that the last round delivers as well. And I think for Beauden Barrett at 15, if he doesn't play well against the Wallabies, he's got to remember he's got to play well in that last game before the World Cup, because that's when people are going to be like, okay, he's the World Cup fullback. Whereas if he has a bad game soon, people only remember your last performance. So it's going to be a tricky one for him. I'm also leaning quite far forward so that my light doesn't flicker. I'll have to try and work out how to fix that. Nice. You notice how I've just slowly been creeping up on you? And just that little bit closer.
Yeah, it's getting scary by every moment, by every second. But that's the thing, like you just kind of just what you said there, like with Beauden Barrett. I think he also maybe criticized until the moment of the last World Cup warm-up match, actually, because they're playing the Boks again. So that could be another kind of defining moment in terms of, because I think, am I wrong in saying by the time that match happens, they'll probably have their squad already announced? I think they'll announce their squads already for the rugby for the World Cup. I mean, because I think it'll be early August. They'll announce the squads. I think it'll be after. I could be wrong with what I'm about to say here, guys, but I think the World Cup squad for the All Blacks as well as the Boks will be announced after the Rugby Championship. I think after the warm up. Could it be after the warm up game?
No, probably. I think it will be before that warm up game, but after the second Wallabies versus All Blacks match, so probably around that kind of 10th of August somewhere.
That's what I'm saying.
Early-ish around there.
Yeah.
Just so they have time to work it all out. Exactly. And a few injury returns maybe for the ABs. Yeah. The big thing for them, though, is that Springbok versus All Black game, you don't want to end up with any injuries just before the World Cup. So would you even play Beauden Barrett is the question. Or do you save him for France?
No, I think you have to play your team. You want to be in the best place possible.
You do,
I
but
know
the Boks are a side that are going to bash you.
But I know from
Look
the
at
Boks
Sam
perspective.
Cane.
Oh, yeah, jeez. Yeah, crazy. But I know from Boks perspective, we have to have. So by the time that game happens, because it's late August that happens, we'll have 100 Pollard hopefully back and Khaleesi. So I'm hoping by the time then we'll actually have our fully strength, like the team that we'll probably go with in terms of the starting lineup for the World Cup. So I'm hoping we can kind of try it out, kind of one time before heading into the World Cup. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, guys, we'll leave it there. Obviously, thank you for everyone who came along and obviously watched. Definitely leave a like, guys, in the comments. We would greatly appreciate that. Subscribe to our channel, guys. I mean, I'm not even sure what the subscribers is at the moment, but we have to kind of reach that goal of at least, I don't know. I'm trying to, have we even set a goal? I mean, is there a goal we should set?
47.
47. Okay, 47. Okay, there you go. We'll get 47 by something. By the end of the Rugby Championship. There you go.
I you're going to say the end of the year.
Hey, I have no clue what we're on, man. But man, we're just enjoying this podcast, man. So I hope that you guys are as well. But anyway, guys, we'll end it there. And yeah, see you guys next time.